Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's To the Grave and Back. Unfortunately, we've had a slight change in our planned chat tonight. Originally, it was going to be about Hurricane Mitch and the anniversary of Hurricane Mitch, but unfortunately, both Nick and Lois aren't feeling too good, and so therefore we've had to make alternative plans. So me and Rosie, between us, we have decided that tonight we're going to talk about celebrity hauntings. And as you know, there have been, over the years, many celebrities have claimed that they have had many ghosts and ghouls in their locations or when they've been out on tours and things like that. So me and Rosie thought we would just come up with a few of well-known celebrity hauntings, and we hope that both Nick and Lois get well soon and get rid of their migraines and their colds and sniffles and bugs and horrible nasties that they've managed to pick up. So
hey everybody,
we just got to do a little quick sharing out. We've got lots of people come on already, which is good. Bear with us.
I was going to tell everybody, if you see me like waving and I have band-aids on my fingers, it's because I bit the dust yesterday. I tripped over where you park at, and you park behind the slabs that like are parking spots, and I like got out of my car, and the one for the car next to me was kind of protruding out. When I opened the door, I didn't even get to shut my door. I just started to take a step back to go behind my door to shut it, and I flew and I fell on the concrete and bloodied my knuckles. So,
ouch.
I made a story. I was like, I should have got a fight with the whole person in their purse. But I was like, yeah, I'll just tell the truth.
Oh, we have Wild Bill in with us tonight. It's been a while, Wild Bill. We haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're well. Anyway,
if you guys in the audience have any ghost stories that you want to share in the comments, go ahead like you usually do. Just post it.
Oh yes, definitely. Anything that you have. So I'll start with one that I didn't actually know about at all, and I think Miley Cyrus always had a bit of a weird and wacky lifestyle, but she did actually see a ghost back in 2009 during her European tour. She claims it was seriously so terrifying. It used to be an old bakery and they turned it into an apartment building. I was having really crazy dreams and really scary things. And one night, my little sister, it sounds crazy to tell you, but she was standing in the shower and all of a sudden I hear her scream. I run in there and the water had somehow flipped to hot, but it wasn't like the water had just changed. The knob had turned, but she hadn't turned it and it was burning her. She was really red. Before I felt this, I thought I had seen a little boy sitting in the sink watching me take a shower. So I felt really freaked out. I was sitting there the next night, and maybe I'm crazy, but I could have sworn I could see this little boy sitting there in the sink, kicking his feet again. My mum was getting mad that we were looking into it because she thought it was going to scare Noah. So then my aunt, who we hadn't told about this, comes in and she starts freaking out. She's like, I had no idea what happened, but I left the apartment and I came back and all the doors and windows were open. I locked the apartment. I'm like, tell my mum she doesn't believe that anything is happening in the apartment. So she told her, and I'm like, Mum, see, I'm not making this up. 3 or 4 more things happened after that. I will never stay there ever again. When we started looking into it, we found out that this guy and his son, this guy who owned the bakery, it was one of these where the dad owns it and the dad owned both. I don't know what she's written here. The dad owns it and the dad owns it. And there was this older man that owned it and his son lived with him there. And I guess the wife died or something. She had gotten sick So it was just the son and the dad that lived there in the bakery. And then the dad died and the son took over the bakery. And I thought I was seeing the son. I'm not even kidding.
That's kind of cool.
Now I knew Miley Cyrus was a bit weird and wacky, but judging by her statement there, I think she might have had a few drinks. I think.
It's kind of cool hearing of a ghost in a sink. I haven't heard of a little kid's ghost in a sink, but I mean,
well, I've heard of parents bathing their toddlers in a sink because it's easier than getting a bath sorted or anything like that. But maybe that was the sort of thing. But it
drugs. Well, listen, good drugs.
It's yeah, it's a bit. I wonder. Quite interesting.
See, I went another direction with this, but I like the one that, like the direction you went. Is that she said, is that by Miley Cyrus, the singer? Yeah, that's by Miley Cyrus, the singer.
Yes. Formerly Miley Ray Cyrus.
You looked up. Yeah. Miley Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, after a bit of a
celebrities that had ghost experiences. I looked up actual ghosts that were celebrities that passed away and came back and haunted people. So it's kind of like, actually, I guess, like both sides of the spectrum.
But that's okay. I can do the celebrities that have seen ghosts, and you can talk about the ghosts that are celebrities.
Yeah, I mean, they're both interesting. So I looked that up because I've been thinking about it for a while, because I had been researching a lot of rock singers, like rock and roll singers that passed away by usually suicide. And then after that, they haunted the locations that they passed away in, like hotels and stuff like that, or their homes or wherever they passed away at. I don't know if you can say the D word or not. So I always say passed away or passed on or departed.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of those.
Unalived.
Unalived. Yeah. They left this place. They left and moved on to greener pastures.
Yeah. They're not here anymore.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of celebrities that are supposed to have haunted places too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've just quickly looked up a few, and I do remember. I'm sure there was one place where Frank Sinatra is supposed to haunt.
Yeah.
But there's Jean Harlow. There is quite a few on a list that I've just popped up with.
Yeah, I saw Al Capone on the list, and Walt Disney, and Harry Houdini. The Harry Houdini one is one of the most fascinating ones, I think, because he promised his wife when he passed away that he was going to come back from the afterlife and visit her. And she paid someone to do a seance in her home to try to communicate with him, because I guess she waited a while to see if he was going to come back on his own. Then he didn't. So she paid someone to have a seance at their home. He actually passed away on Halloween too, which is even cooler. But she had someone to do a seance at their home to try to pull him, make him come forth or communicate, and it did not work. She waited for 10 years, though, at that house where he passed away or where he lived. And after 10 years, she finally moved. And after she moved, she decided nothing was going to happen. Then weird things started happening, and the house burned down in a brush fire.
Yeah. And there is actually a brief mention of Houdini and the deal that him and his wife had made on the event of either of them passing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a film called Nandor Fodor and the Talking Mongoose.
Uh-huh.
And it is actually based on a true story. And that I only, oddly enough, watched it about 2 hours ago on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite interesting because it was very much based on Harry Price and this guy Nandor Fodor, who were parapsychologists, and they were trying to go out and actually look at debunking what these people were claiming were
like magicians and stuff.
Yeah, and
psychics or whatever.
Yeah, and in this particular case, there was a case of this talking mongoose, and these people were claiming that this mongoose was coming and talking to them. So he goes down to debunk it, and you never actually see the mongoose. You just see like a little bit of fur moving in a sort of like a crate hole, a hole of a crate, and in the end, it sort of, he gets drunk and he disappears. But he then gets a letter from a solicitor stating that if he writes about the experience, he'll get prosecuted for slander and libel. And right at the end of the film, you see this talking mongoose standing on top of the hill, looking over the farmhouse where he talks to people. Very strange film, but it was the bits that were in there, like they were talking, Harry Price and this Nandor Fodor were talking about Harry Price and the deal that he made with his wife. By once they'd passed, they would try and communicate with either half and give them this coded message that only them two would know. But in this film, the actual coded message comes through.
Did it?
According to this film, but this film is based on true events, so I don't recall that message ever coming through.
I don't either, but I do recall it wasn't the same thing you're talking about. But I recall people, I guess, parapsychologically debunking the case of Houdini, or that he was even a magician at all. I mean, I think everyone needs to believe in magic. I think it gives people, like something to look forward to. Some kind of magic does. I don't.
Yeah, I think with him, I think he was an illusionist, wasn't he, and an escapologist
and an escape artist.
Yeah. So I think that was more what he was about, wasn't it? But it's yeah. It certainly was a bit. It does make strange reading. I'm trying to find one here.
I had like particular reasons because there was like several artists that I really listened to a lot growing up, and they had committed suicide. Three of them at least, or four. One was actually an actor, and three of them were musicians that committed suicide. And I just wanted to see if like there was a common like link or anything between them, like that they all have a certain medication, and they all have a certain like depression. Did they all have depression? Did they all have some kind of certain like mental illness that made all of these people? Because it's really common in the music world for musicians to die, and it be dubbed as a suicide.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that Hoff bloke to contact some of the recent celebrities that have passed. Just to add to the conspiracies. I mean, you've got there's someone with who is it? The Hollywood Reporter said that if ghosts pop up again and again, seem to mainly be those left unfulfilled, those whom the public feel died before their time. So if somebody dies suddenly, like Michael Jackson or Marilyn Monroe or Valentino or James Dean, then it's a real shock to the system, and people don't want to let those celebrities go. And you really feel like you can reach in and possibly help them or have them to yourself in the afterlife. It's such a bizarre thing, but people get so possessive about celebrities. But I've just found quite a few here. Marilyn Monroe, Rudolph Valentino.
Yeah, some Marilyn Monroe.
Elvis Presley.
Lucille Ball. Can you imagine Lucille Ball like playing her character? Honey, I'm home. and like just doing that behind people, and they were like, and they look behind them, and there's no one there, but it sounded just like Lucille Ball. I know that was that was her husband that said that in the show, right? She just made that wah noise when he would say that. Do I like Mountain Dew? Yeah, right. I don't really, actually, I don't drink Mountain Dew very often. But this was a display, a Halloween display for the Voodoo Mountain Dew, and they were going to throw it in the trash at the dollar store. And we were like, no, give us that. So now I have like all my weird haunted goodies and stuff on here, and like things that I need to reach for while I'm sitting at this desk. It was going to go in the trash. So.
Well.
It's funny he saw that. I can't even see it really. Well, barely.
Oh, right. I've just found a different one. Whitney Houston.
Elvis has passed away. Well, Bill said Elvis hasn't passed away. He's alive and he's on the mothership.
Oh, no, not if you believe everything you see on TikTok. Apparently, he's a minister, and this bloke actually sings like Elvis as well as look like him with white hair. I can't remember the name of him. It's been doing the circuit with conspiracy theorists that Elvis was he just couldn't handle all the pressure, and he just wanted to get away from it all. So he faked his death and sort of became a recluse. And now this guy, he's a minister somewhere. I can't remember where it was. But people actually said that he did bear resemblance to Elvis Presley. And the conspiracy theorists got their hands on it, and they took pictures of Elvis Presley in his heyday, and they used computer software to enhance his age. And it bore a big resemblance to this minister. And he was adamant that it wasn't him, but someone took video footage of him actually singing in the church behind a piano. And the bloke had said that his voice was exact to Elvis Presley's.
Mm-hmm.
And yet this guy's still swearing it. He's not Elvis. I'm not Elvis, he says. But
yeah. I do think that somebody could they can make yourself sound so much like somebody that like it's almost undeniable.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I read what Linda said too. I could understand you that too.
Well, Bill's comment. No, he's on the mothership. I had dinner with him not long ago.
Magnifying glass. He's like, I know, I seen him with my own 2 eyes. I seen him. That's funny. Lucille Ball. Huh?
We have one here, obviously about Michael Jackson. And this has been probably the most cited celebrity ghost in the United States.
Yeah.
And he died. Obviously, he died in 2009. Apparently, he died from a combination of sedatives, propofol, and anaesthetic. And the death was actually ruled as a homicide in 2011 by his personal doctor. He was then convinced of convicted even, whoever wrote this article can't spell, of involuntary manslaughter. But Michael's ghost is said to reside in his infamous Neverland Ranch. It's said to have his presence in there. Here is a quote from India Today. India Today. Local people say Jackson's spirit has been haunting his estate since he died. Investors and visitors considering buying the property are warned that workers on the ranch have claimed the King of Pop still haunts the premises.
That would be like one of the spookiest celebrity ghosts, I think, because of such his high-pitched vocal abilities. Can you imagine that? Like, I can't do it, or I would try. Like when like he would like be like hee hee, like all of a sudden you're like, what was that? You're trying to eat dinner or something, or you said like the people that work there, like you're on the ranch scooping horse poop, and you hear that, and you're like, oh my god, what was that? Was it a horse or was it Michael Jackson's ghost? I mean,
I'd be in hysterics if I had done something like that when I was
Well, have you
working
seen how
out
many
there.
YouTube videos? There's like a lot of YouTube videos where people have taken that part of the song or where he did that, and they have
Yeah.
put that in the YouTube video and made like this ghost looking figure of him that's really pale. What's he called? What's the Michael Jackson called?
Ayawoki.
Ayawoki. He's called Ayawoki. My son loves Michael Jackson and used to be obsessed with Michael Jackson. And he told me that there is there's a ghost or a monster thing. It's an entity that has been created by YouTube that has a hee like sound, and he's called the Ayawoki.
Right.
Annie, are you okay? Like, are you okay? But they call him
Yeah.
the Ayawoki. Yeah.
We had a comedian over here, Lee Francis, and he used to do various characters, and one of his characters was a Mickey take of Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And what he would do was, rather than use makeup or anything to change his look, he'd wear these rubber masks. And these rubber masks were so far out of what they really looked like, but you could tell basically who the celebrity was supposed to be. And he would then do things like the hee and do the dancing and come out with strange words that apparently Michael Jackson would have come out with. He'd like Shimon and stuff like that. And he became quite a celebrity from doing that sort of thing. So, I mean, you can imagine if you're out on that ranch or you're there decorating one of the rooms. And one of the videos I have seen has been looking down one of the hallways, and a shadow that appears to be Michael Jackson's shadow moving from one room across the corridor into the other. And everybody has said that, you know, the person that did the video claims he was the only person in that section of the ranch. If he was the only person in that section of the ranch, who created the shadow?
Yeah.
And really, we are talking, I mean, we're talking shortly after he died, so it must have been about 2010, I reckon, that happened. And to be honest, would you think a workman would have the ability to Photoshop a video?
I don't know. I don't know why they would want to if they're not going to get any money out of it.
No. So it was either somebody else playing a prank on him, or it could have been Michael Jackson's spirit. Or it could have been Michael Jackson himself, because the conspiracy theorists are out there saying he didn't die.
Yeah. I feel like if he didn't die, then he would be seen somewhere, because I think that he really had to be in the spotlight. Not like he was, like he wanted, like he was obsessed with it, but like just he was born to be in a spotlight. You know what I mean? Like he was born, he belonged there.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, he did have a troubled life, didn't he? You know, as a child, he was pushed into the limelight right from the start, and he never got to have a childhood because of that.
As a small child.
And that's why he created Neverland Ranch. So maybe, I mean, obviously he was under a lot of pressure by Sony Records, wasn't he, about doing the tour? And there was a lot of pressure on him to get ticket sales out there, and he was supposed to be appearing at the London O2. And you know, maybe he just decided upon himself that, you know, maybe he's got to make a stop. So if he fakes his death, he can go and be a recluse somewhere and live his life. There has been claims that he has been seen wearing prosthetic makeup to change his appearance so he can go out and mix with people.
Yeah, but did you say that the doctor was actually convicted of attempted murder or homicide?
He was first convicted of murder, and then it was changed. It was ruled as homicide, and then it was changed to involuntary manslaughter.
So if that's a legit actual thing that you can look up the proof of, then he'd have to really be dead, though, because they would have had to have a cadaver to do, like, you know, like you have to have a body to convict somebody of murder or homicide. You have to have like a physical body or remnant remains and bones and DNA and all that stuff. I mean, if that's all a true story, if the doctor actually was convicted.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. There's got to be, you can't convict someone of murder if there's no body.
Mm-mm.
So there has to be a body, but money talks. Could there be a payment somewhere along the line?
Even if there was a lookalike of him, they would have a dental record. They'd have to check the dental records and the DNA wild deal and still make sure it was him.
Well, yeah, but you see, this is where the problem is, isn't it? If you got the right people, you might have the right price. You might be able to pay someone to fake those records.
A fan in a bunny costume. We said not with the right amount of money. I don't think that the person would have been convicted if it wasn't the real body, but I'm not saying there even was a conviction. Just as much as the story could have been like conspiracies say he's not really passed away, then if he's not really passed away, then that story could have been fabricated about the doctor too.
Yeah, but what I mean is you could get the doctor could go as the fall guy. If he's paid enough and he gets, say, 5 years imprisonment for involuntary manslaughter, he's only got to spend 5 years in prison and he could walk out with $5 million in his pocket.
It's true. And the family actually probably all had money too. The Jackson family.
There was a lot more money there than I reckon people made out.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's a possibility that there could have been payments made somewhere along the line, and he could have been discreetly removed from the public eye.
Yeah. I mean, aliens look like they're real now, and I didn't think that there would, be released evidence from the government about aliens. I've always believed in them. So, I mean, I guess if ghosts can be real and aliens and UFOs can be real, then I guess someone's death could be fake.
And Michael Jackson says, it would not have been the first time that has happened. Look at Elvis. They had his body, but he's still alive. And Michael Jackson does have a lot of lookalikes out there.
I've watched quite a few of them and follow quite a few of them.
You look through history. Adolf Hitler had a lot of doppelgangers. He had a lot of lookalikes. And they are now claiming that the person that was at the bunker in Berlin when the Russians walked in was not Adolf Hitler. All they had was a jawbone, and that's been destroyed. So, you could use a lookalike, not necessarily be able to tell on dental records, but then that person could have been, that could have been a payoff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I don't think Hitler was in the bunker. He ended up in South America. Yep. So I think, well, Bill's mind reading. Stop it, Bill.
I know. He says the thing that you're saying as you're saying it. You have twin brains.
He's literally popping up on my screen as I'm saying it. It pops up.
Yeah, I know. Before this time, too, like earlier, he was doing that, and I was like, oh, that's funny. Are you guys twinning? Are you twinning?
Okay, we have the ghost of Marilyn Monroe.
Go, you want to do that one, and then I'll do one after that.
Okay, the blonde bombshell and paramour to JFK was found dead in 1962. She was found on a bed with a phone in one hand and a bottle of antidepressant pills scattered all over the room. After a brief investigation by the LAPD, her death was ruled as suicide. There is some speculation that she was killed by the Secret Service to cover her affair with JFK. So where is Marilyn Monroe's ghost seen? Well, during the film of the biopic Blondie, or Blonde, however you want to pronounce it, the actress Ana de Armas that portrayed the iconic blonde said, I truly believe that she was very close to us. She was with us. The Cuban-born actress Ana de Armas continued, I think she was happy. She would also throw things off the wall sometimes and get mad if she didn't like something, she told reporters. Maybe this sounds very mystical, but it is true. We all felt it. The movie played with fire by filming the death scene in the same room where she actually died. Ooh.
I bet she would have had a little bit of like spunk to her after in the afterlife. I could see that.
Well, I mean, well, as in life, as in death, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to actually film the death scene in the same room, I don't think I'd have done that myself.
No.
I mean, doing the work that I do, doing the work we do, would you really want to go and film a film about the person that actually died in that room, having an actress that looks like her in there?
I guess like I could see like a perspective of like the Hollywood, like the movie people or the people that, wrote the script or whatever want to do that. But I could also see like a macabre side to that where, like that's almost kind of like the Brandon Lee thing in The Crow, or like, like where things just like are already doomed before they even start. I could see like that side of it too, in a way.
But it's, I don't know. Would it be tempting fate if you were to do something like that?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of.
They had the ability to have a closed set. They could have done a mock-up. They could have just sent somebody in to take pictures of the room, and then got a closed set and done a replica of that room in a closed set in the studio. You'd have got the same effect, but they used the actual room.
Yeah.
I think.
And they could have even actually built an entire set that looked like that room, like with all the same details.
Exactly. You just take a couple of photographs of the room and off you go. You've got an entire room all made up inside a studio. You wouldn't have even had to have gone to that hotel again.
Yeah, I don't know. If I was the actress, I wonder if the actress at one point was kind of like, I have a weird feeling about this, or if she ever had like a feeling about it, or if she was just like, money signs, dollar bills. This is my moment to be famous. I don't know.
I know I'm getting paid a lot of money for this, but excuse me, Mr. Director, do you seriously want me to actually lay there on the bed exactly there like that?
Did you know that the family that bought the Amityville home, after that family was unalive there, they kept all the same furniture in it and lived with the furniture in it that all those children in that family were unalived in?
I couldn't have done that.
Not sick? That is sick.
Yeah.
Why would you keep a bed that a little child was unalived in and sleep in it? That's sick.
Yeah, it was a fly. We haven't had a fly around here in weeks.
Oh, yeah. You sent them all over here.
That's because you mentioned the Amityville house.
That's funny, Wild Bill. So, one of them that I'd picked was Lucille Ball. And it said that she had passed away in her Beverly Hills mansion. And the following owners that moved there in her home reported that they had windows that would break. They had voices in the attic, that multiple different people heard voices in the attic. And they also had furniture that moved around in the house. So I thought that was pretty crazy. That's like, she must have had a really strong spirit to move around furniture. I don't know how she passed away, though. I didn't see how she passed away. I didn't read it.
Well, but I mean, there has, I don't think, well, I don't know, maybe it is. I remember the original vaults in Barbados where full-size coffins were being moved from one side of the vault to the other. Some of them were being tipped upside down, some were being stood upright. But I think that was because the spirits that were of the people that were buried there were angry at the fact that an unknown person was placed in that vault to make room. And the negative energy had built up because of this anger between the family there, that they literally moved. It's I can't remember. I think it's in Bridgetown in Barbados, and it was a big family vault, and all of the family over generations were put into this vault. But it was something to do with one particular coffin that had nothing to do with the family, was placed in that vault to make, while there was room being made for it to be buried elsewhere. But apparently the spirits of the people that were in that vault weren't happy with that body being put in there. And when people went back there, because there were reports of noises being heard from the graveyard, the following day, the police and the caretaker of the cemetery went there. They moved away the door and found all of the coffins of the family on one side of the cemetery and this one particular coffin on the other.
So they were like,
no one had been able to have got into this vault because the door was sealed and locked. So they're like, well, how did they get in? It has been quite well documented. And I went over there in 87, 88, and we walked through there, and just walking through the cemetery is it's not a nice feeling. But when you know the story, I think that adds to the feel and the atmosphere of a place when you go there. And to know that the family weren't happy about this particular cemetery, this particular coffin being placed in there, it makes all the difference. And I think with like Lucille Ball's house, I think if she's not happy with certain things being in a certain place, she'd get the energy from somewhere and move it. You know, it's like, I don't want that couch there, and shoves it over the other side of the room. Or I don't want the table there, and moves it. I think I'd be sort of like going, well, do I really want this? So I just not move in here. I'll go off elsewhere.
Well, it makes me wonder why they didn't want that person in there. Like, what did they have against that person being there?
Yeah, well, could it be because they wanted to stay there themselves? They thought they weren't quite fully undead yet. Could that have been a possibility?
I don't think that he could have went anywhere in 1788 because he's not that old. If she was asking, she said, was that 1788 that you went to the cemetery? I think she's talking
I was 1987 or 1988. I went over there.
You're not old. You're a vampire.
Certainly weren't
1788. You're a vampire, and that's what we're talking about.
I'm obviously not getting all of the messages coming up on my screen.
Yeah, she said, "Do I need my hearing checked?" Something went awry because he was not there in 1788.
No. I said 1987, 88. So it was 1987 or 1988. It was one of the two.
She might have transposed the numbers on accident until she said, "Do I need my hearing checked?" And I was like, "No, she meant 1788. That's what she meant."
I was walking around the graveyard going, "I want to suck your blood." But no.
Yeah. There was also like another one I've researched a couple of times. Amy Winehouse. She was a singer. She lived in London, and her father still lives there. And when she passed away, like really soon after her passing on, a black bird would come to his house, and he said that she haunted them in the form of a black bird at first, and then over time, 3 or 4 different times, she would come in his room and sit at the end of his bed, and he would wake up and be anxious and nervous because she was there, and he would ask her if she was okay, because he didn't really know why she was haunting him, or if something was wrong and she was trying to communicate with him or whatever. I thought that was pretty cool too. Like that she haunted her own dad.
I hadn't heard of that one actually, to be honest. I never really followed Amy Winehouse. I never really liked her stuff, so all I knew about Amy Winehouse was her antics, not her songs so much.
Oh yeah, like her addiction problems, you mean?
Yeah, she had a bit of a troubled life, and I don't have time for things like that. I switch off when things like that come along. I'm like, no, you're all right.
What's strange is I didn't even know that about her until she passed away. All I knew was the music because I didn't actually really pay attention to like anything in her personal life. I guess I just listened to her music. You know, like back when the only way you did that was on a radio, so you didn't know anything else except what came on the radio.
No, I never. I mean, I've been to places where Amy Winehouse has lived, and you go past them and you think, oh, this is a bit of a strange place. And you do get this strange sort of feel about the area, knowing that she lived there. And to be honest, I personally think she looked quite evil anyway. She had quite an evil look about her.
She did have like a dark persona. Yeah. She did. Yeah. Maybe like a troubled persona.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
A bit of a dark side to her.
Yeah. Which a lot of musicians do. Really, a lot of them. They have kind of a darkness to them, yeah.
It's quite possible. Speaking of musicians, I've got John Lennon here.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, a lot of people would know John Lennon was famously shot dead in public at the age of 40 in 1980. And his killer, Mark David Chapman, shot John Lennon in front of his friends and family after Lennon gave him an autograph. Chapman blamed his assassination on one of my favourite books, The Catcher in the Rye, calling Lennon a something phony. Lennon was memorialised in Strawberry Fields, a section across the Dakota in New York that rests on Central Park. So where is his ghost being seen? This experience is from the Exemplar. In 1983, 3 years after his death, two residents of the building, Joey Harrow and Amanda Moores, saw John Lennon standing in the doorway where he had been assassinated. Bathed in an eerie light, John appeared deep in thought, perhaps contemplating the utter futility of his passing. After that, his love also saw him. Yoko Ono also witnessed the ghostly image of her husband in the apartment they once shared. Seated at his grand piano, he turned to his wife and comforted her with the words, "Don't be afraid, I'm still with you."
Aww.
I think that's quite sweet, to be honest.
It is.
And I think that's quite weird that I've actually come across that, because I've got the latest track from the Beatles that John Lennon wrote before he died.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing it in my car this afternoon. It's quite weird actually to come across that.
Yeah. Kind of coincidental.
Sorry?
Like a coincidence?
Quite a bit of a coincidence, to be honest, because I saw a thing come up on TikTok, on my TikTok feed, and I thought, oh, blimey, another song from the Beatles after all this time. And so I actually looked at the post and then looked at all the subsequent parts that were before and after it. And it turned out that it was written just before he was, literally months before he was assassinated. And they tried to piece it all together from the tape that Yoko Ono had given them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to invent the technology to move all the parts apart, because John had actually played on the piano and recorded it all in one go. So they had to invent the technology to be able to pull all the separate pieces apart. So you've got all the individual, the piano, guitar, John's voice.
Yeah.
And then they actually ended up making a song out of it. But then George Harrison died. So everything went on hold. And then they decided they'll carry on with it again. And now they've actually released it. I think it came out Monday or Tuesday. And it's a brilliant song.
What is it
And
called?
I just think Now and Then.
Now and Then.
I think it's
I
Now
like
and Then.
them. My parents always liked them, and I really always grew up listening to the Beatles. I'll have to check it out.
I did enjoy sort of the last sort of stuff that they did. I wasn't too keen on the early stuff, but the later stuff that they did before they sort of went their separate ways, I enjoyed. Now and Then it's called.
I don't know. I can think of a song in high school that I really liked. Love Me Do. I always liked that song.
Yeah.
It was a good tune.
Yeah. See, Wild Bill's had that conspiracy as well.
And he said, "We have cookies on the dark side."
Yeah, the original Paul passed away in a car accident, but they didn't want to stop the Beatles, so they got a lookalike, and he was a well-known lookalike as well, apparently. And this guy had won many competitions looking like Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
So they approached him and asked him if they would carry on as Paul McCartney, and he basically took over Paul's life. So it's not the real Paul McCartney. But if it's not the real Paul McCartney, he's a very talented man, regardless.
Yeah.
Because not only does he look like Paul McCartney, he sings like him, and he writes like him, and he plays music like him.
Wild Bill, what do you think about Tupac Shakur? The Machiavelli? The same conspiracy about him, except for the fact that they actually last month finally solved his unaliving case and were able to convict the two suspects in the case of his unaliving.
Yeah, well, wasn't it something to do with a cousin or something, wasn't it, of the main suspect, the original main suspect?
The main suspect, I think, was like a brother of the person. Well, okay.
Yeah, it was a relative, wasn't it? The eventual killer turned out to be a relative
The
of the.
people that ended up doing it were rivals of Tupac and his crew or gang or whatever you want to call them. You know, like they were rivals. There was like two groups of rivals.
Yeah.
Tupac and his, I guess, right-hand man beat up the other group's, the leader's brother, I think. And so later that night, because they were in the same place, and it was said to have been arranged that way on purpose, that Tupac and who was it that was with him? Whoever was with him that night that also got unalived in the vehicle. The other guys came there on purpose to be in the same place at the same time because it was a specific event in a specific place, and they just, happened to be there. Well, there was a fight in an elevator after the event was over. Tupac and why can't I remember this other famous person's name? I can't remember, but the other guy.
Is it Suge or Suge or something?
Suge.
Sugar.
Yeah, Suge. So those two people got in a fight with the other leader guys. I think it was his brother. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was his brother. Beat the crap out of him, basically. So then later on that night, a hit went out, and they must have followed or stalked Suge and Tupac to find them, because they literally pulled up next to them at a stoplight, shot both of them, and then sped off and just left them in the car at the stoplight. And then they passed away.
Yeah. I've got it up. It's come up on here.
Suge Knight. I can't remember his last name.
It was a rivalry between Biggie and Tupac. That's what started it. Tupac was in the car with Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, when a white Cadillac pulled up on them and shot 12 times. Tupac caught 4 bullets and Suge was grazed in the head. Suge rushed Tupac to University Medical Center, but after emergency surgery, he still died from his wounds. One of the conspiracy theories was that Suge was behind it.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was a hit. It was a hit orchestrated by him. That's one of the conspiracy theories.
Well, if it was, he got his karma, I guess. I mean, that's what I would say. That would be your karma. Get mixed up in the body count of a hit you orchestrated. I guess that would be your karma.
But I've got on here that one of the most prolific rappers of the 90s may have visited one of the most prolific rappers of our time, Kendrick Lamar. And Kendrick claimed in the Rolling Stone magazine he had been visited in his sleep by the ghost of the legendary Tupac Shakur. Lamar spoke of the incident to Homegrown Radio, recalling how Shakur's silhouette came to him and said, "Keep doing what you're doing. Don't let my music die." This experience later inspired the closing song to the Pimp a Butterfly, titled Mortal Man, in which he samples his real-life interview with the fallen rap legend in 1994.
That's cool. That's a cool message too. They gave him.
I would assume that Kendrick Lamar sort of carried on with the same style as Tupac.
Yeah.
I'm not into that sort of music, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I
don't like rap now, but back in the 80s and the 90s, to me it was different. I don't know why, it just was. I feel like when those people passed away, the legends passed away, me, like, in my point of view, like and Aaliyah, she was one of my favorites, Aaliyah. I feel like when they passed away, that passion that I had for that kind of music passed away with them, and like just went to rest with them, and it just kind of like wasn't the same after that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm boring.
Luke Skywalker and the Two Live Crew.
I'm boring. I prefer instrumental sort of stuff. So I'm a Tubular Bells type of person. Listen to Mike Oldfield, Vangelis, Jean-Michel Jarre. I love all that sort of stuff. So for me, I'll listen to more modern stuff and different types of music, but that's my go-to music. So
I do like classic music, but I don't know any of the ones that you named.
Well, Mike Oldfield, he did the theme tune was Tubular Bells, which went to the film The Exorcist.
Okay.
It's the piano theme in The Exorcist. Yeah. He did the music for that, and it was one of the biggest selling records of the late 70s.
Yeah.
Very popular record. It's Tubular Bells, it's called the actual excerpts from. And it is literally just a double album. Probably goes on for about 50 odd minutes, this one piece of music, but it's all broken up into different sections.
Yeah.
They'd used one particular section for the film The Exorcist, and just about every other Exorcist film that is out there has got either the original piece or a remixed version of the Tubular Bells excerpt.
It sounds familiar. The name of it does, and I've seen that movie before, but the classic music I like is more like the stuff that's in like Jurassic Park or something to that effect, like in a Spielberg movie. Or like
so you're looking more like John Williams and Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, or even
Yeah.
Beethoven or Bach or Vivaldi or some of those guys. I know who they are, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, with more. I mean, I think obviously back in that day, in Beethoven's day, that would have been the in thing. That would have been pop music
Yeah.
in that day. And I think it's probably because a lot of the obviously with the advent of being able to write everything down and the manuscript writing for the music gets kept, and so it can be replayed later on. And if you look at some of the stuff that's being played on radios today, some of that music has been sampled from tracks that
Yeah.
were around in the 50s.
A lot of it has recently, like recent songs that have came out last year and this year, I've noticed a lot of songs that are being released now have tracks that are from other artists or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost seems to me like there's no talent there. They're just like, well, you know what? We'll sample this and we'll put it with a bit of that and stick it with this, and then we'll just say our bits over the top, and all of a sudden it's a hit record.
Yeah, but it's usually digital music. It's not usually like a rock band that is going back and taking that. You know what I mean? Like it's a digital part of a track that they took from another digital or another track, and they laid it into their song or their track.
But I mean, the likes of the Hellraiser theme songs, like as Bill says, classic theme. You know, you got the likes of John Carpenter. Not only does he write for the films, for the horror films that he directs, but he also writes the film scores.
He put some kind of link in the comments. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's probably to the Hellraiser theme tune.
Okay.
But
I don't even remember what that sounds like, but like, I mean, I like basically any horror movie that I've seen. I usually like the music from those.
Yeah. John Carpenter's got some. Yes. I think he's a very talented.
So too.
Well, director, storyteller, and musician, and he actually did a collaboration with one of my favourite musicians, Jean-Michel Jarre. Oh, that was the link for Tubular Bells that Bill put up. He did a collaboration with Jean-Michel Jarre, and back in 1986, 1987, he did a concert in Houston, Texas. And it ended up in the Guinness Book of Records for having the largest ever audience in the world.
Yeah.
1.5 million people. And then he went and beat it the following year by doing another concert where 2.5 million people turned up. And then a few years later, he did another concert in Moscow, and he got in the Guinness Book of Records again for having 3.5 million people in there. So
I want to see what that sounds like that he posted, because there's also another classic concert I went to many years ago. But I think it was Mannheim Steamroller. The Chorus of Bells. You know who that is?
No.
But it sounds like you're saying Tubular Bells, but it's the Chorus of Bells. I think it was a Mannheim Steamroller Orchestra. I think that's who they were.
Oh.
If you heard it, you would know what it was. You know that na 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 na.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's that Mannheim. Yeah, that's who it is. That was a Christmas concert. They do it every year, and it was in Texas when I went to it. When you said that, I was like, I wonder if that's the same person, because that was Mannheim. Yeah.
I mean that Mannheim one, that tune sort of gets every year it comes out, doesn't it? It's always used somewhere along the line in adverts.
In a commercial or on the radio or somewhere. might be a vacuum cleaner commercial or a Christmas commercial, what, like Target or some shopping place. Put out a new album each year.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah, it
with
was
Bill
pretty
on that
cool.
one.
I think it sounds
You,
cooler though when you're hearing it in person and you're like in a theater though, and it's like really, really, like you can feel the music.
yeah, I think in the right place, in the right place with the right instruments, you get the right sound. There's a lady I follow on TikTok. She is the organist at the Royal Albert Hall, and she just recently did a show with the Ministry of Sound, and they did a remix of Interstellar,
Oh
the music,
yeah,
the music from the film Interstellar, and they actually use this organ. And she was doing loads of TikToks, and she actually did a small live feed on TikTok with a phone was by the side of the organ, and she was standing there playing it, and it was like 3 levels of keys, and she was standing there and she was doing this, and you could hear the crowd behind her going absolutely mad, and you had all the lights flashing away and everything else, and it, because of the church organ and the acoustics within the Royal Albert Hall,
yeah.
it sort of reverberated. It went right the way round, and then just came back round again, and it just seemed to be constant all the time.
I love the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. That might have been who I saw. It might not have been Mannheim. It might have been the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, but they had said already that Mannheim is known for their Christmas songs. So it was one of those two. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra goes around doing shows every year around Christmas time too. You too.
Yeah, we tend to get small groups. Tend to get small groups of people like the old church bell ringers, and they and little groups of bell ringers go round with the little handbells, and you get to see them go off out. It's quite amusing sometimes when you see them in the local towns and villages at church fetes, and they're ringing away, and it's throwing it down with rain, and they're getting freezing cold, and they're standing going, "Oh, I want to go in."
I wonder which is worse though. Do you think that's worse, or do you think like where they're standing out there and they're just dripping sweat and they're still going on an outside concert and it's like blazing hot outside and they're just drinking their water and playing their music? I don't know which one's worse.
I'm going to say, I'll speak from experience. I preferred actually doing gigs in the summer than I did in the winter. Because I myself play keyboards, and I used to be in a duo, and most of our gigs, we do a lot of gigs sort of late spring into early autumn, and doing summer gigs was so much better than doing winter gigs, because you didn't get much chance to warm up.
You have better crowds in the summer, I'm sure.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, I mean, the last big gig I did was the Millennium, and it was absolutely freezing cold, and I was standing there behind my keyboard, singing and playing my keyboard, wearing a coat because it was that cold. I'm like, yeah, okay. What are we singing next?
Yeah, but I do like when concert bands or whatever have keyboardists. I used to play keyboard when I was little. I didn't play it in a band. I just played it because my mom got me piano lessons. So it was fun.
I learned to play by ear.
Did you? I learned how to play by ear too, with keyboard.
It was only because I'd seen the Jean-Michel Jarre concert in Houston that I really liked the music and thought, that's me, I'm going to start playing keyboards. And so I learned to play by ear. I then started doing piano lessons, but by this time I'd already learned the basics.
Yeah.
And doing a year's worth of music lessons just sort of confirmed what I was doing. And so I was just able to carry on regardless. Now I compose my own stuff. So it's It's weird. I mean, I've done a new version of Silent Night, but I've spookified it. That's what I've called it. I've
Oh,
spookified
that's
it.
cool.
And it's now called Silent Fright.
Silent Fright.
So although it sounds like Silent Night, it's been given that sort of haunted, dark touch to it.
Yeah.
And it goes down quite well. And when I was playing it to my partner Ellen, and I said to her, I said, "Yeah, what do you think of this?" And she went, "Yeah, that's all right. That's brilliant, that is." And then it got to the end, and you hear this little girl laugh, and she went, "No," she said, "No, that's too freaky. No, don't include that bit."
I think that I would be like, "What? What's going on? Is there video for this? Is there just a sound? Is this just audio?"
It is just audio, but I'm probably going to use it for my live feed that I'm doing on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if Nick wants to do it, me and Nick Moulay are gonna do a joint thing where I'll read one of my ghost stories on Christmas Eve, and then straight after it, because of the time difference, Nick will come on reading one of his. So we'll have this nice and constant live feed for a couple of hours going into Christmas Day. And I felt that the tradition of a ghost story on Christmas Eve should be renewed and be brought back. So I said to Nick, "Do you want to come on and do it with us?"
Yeah, I was reading.
And I think it's a nice idea. So that's going to be used as the theme tune. So I thought, why not?
Is it spooky stories, or is it like the Christmas Carol revisited, or what? Like
they are Christmas related ghost stories.
Okay.
So over the last 3 years, they've been my own written ghost stories, and they've all had Christmas as their main subject, and they've only been released on Christmas Eve via a live feed. Eventually I'm going to put them into one big book of a compilation of Christmas ghost stories, which will go on sale through Amazon. So yeah, I think that'll be quite a nice one. So the actual Silent Fright is going to be the theme tune for the start up of the night.
That's what I was thinking, or like Merry Frightmas.
Or scary Christmas.
Yeah, or like there's a new movie that came out last year, and I did not get to see it. And it's on DVD now. I can't remember what it was called. Jorn. I don't know. I'll have to look it up later. I'll stick it in the group chat if I find it.
Yeah.
But it's on sale at Walmart now on DVD. I saw it yesterday. All hail Krampus. That's what I was going to ask next, if it was the stories about Krampus or something like that. Because I've seen a bunch of different versions and like creepier, darker, spookier versions of the Christmas Carol, like a twist on that. And then I've seen like a bunch of different versions of Krampus, like from like the movie that came out a few years ago. It's really dark and creepy and twisted. And then I've seen like anime. I've even seen where people turn Krampus into Godzilla. And it was like Godzilla version of Krampus. And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think the Krampus I saw was quite gory. I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. That's what he said.
I'm sure the Krampus I saw people's limbs disappeared.
Violent Night. Last year it came out. It was called Violent Night. I didn't get to see it, but it has David Harbour is the actor in it, the main actor. Violent Night. So if anybody's seen that and it's any good, I'll probably end up watching it anyways. I just renewed my Netflix subscription so that when I have to go out of town and work, I have something to do. So I'm looking for lists of anything. If anybody wants to throw anything on there that's on Netflix that's like a spooky Christmas, or even if it's not spooky, like it's a Christmas thing or whatever, I'll probably sit around and watch those next month when I'm Well, when you're stuck in a hotel room, you know what I mean? Like, you got to kind of like
Yeah.
find something to do by
Yeah, you got-
yourself. I can't play cards with myself.
Of course you can. You can play solitaire.
Black Christmas. Oh, yeah. Black Christmas. I saw that. I think I watched
Yeah.
that last year. Me and my son watched that, but I kind of like had to change it, you know, like when it was on bad parts. And then we watched Krampus, and he really like is obsessed with that. I had to buy him the DVD. I let him watch it. I'm a bad mom.
I think what we need to do is we need to horrorize lovely Christmas films.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like Polar
brother said that
Express.
my brother said that every time that someone puts their Christmas tree up before Thanksgiving, that an elf gets killed or beheaded.
Quick, everybody, get up.
Get your trees up. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yeah. I like the old ones too, though. I like the new ones that I've seen, but I like the old scary Christmas movies
I think
too.
for years we used to watch Polar Express every year, and I think we'd have it on about 4 or 5 times over Christmas. And now it's got to the stage where we need to do something about it. And I'm like, right, give me
You're
a
like,
piece of paper.
the derailed Polar Express.
I'm gonna turn the Polar Express into a horror film.
Yeah. You're like, let Tim Burton get his hands on it.
To all these people that get on the train don't think they're getting home.
Oh my gosh, that would be funny.
If they think do they really think they're going to the North Pole? I don't think so.
That reminds me of a movie too. They could cross it with this. Have you seen Train to Busan?
I've heard of it. I can't remember whether I've seen it
It
or
was on Netflix or Paramount Plus. I can't remember. I think it was on Netflix. Train to Busan is the scariest zombie movie I have ever seen in my life. Ever. I've never been terrified by a zombie movie, but this one is like so scary. I watched it last year. Probably around Christmas time, maybe a little bit after, but Train to Busan is everything takes place on these train tracks and on these trains. So it made me think of like if you mix Polar Express with that, like you can't get off the train because you're going to get eaten by zombies.
I'll have to look it up and see if I've seen it before. I might have.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
I've lost track of what films I have and haven't seen. And people say to me, "Have you seen this film?" And I'll be like, "I don't know. I've seen so many now. I can't remember what I have or haven't seen."
If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. If you like horror films or zombie movies, it's really good.
Right.
I've seen a billion of it, but
Train to Busan.
Polar Express, let it be the boat ride on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That'd be crazy too.
A psychedelic trip.
There's a sequel to Train to
It's a
Busan. Are you
sequel?
serious? Oh, I have to look it
Ooh.
up. Where? Because I will watch it. Yeah, okay, yeah, there is. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have to pick a day to find these films because I've fallen behind with writing my book. So I was quite proud of myself yesterday. I did 1,200 words in an hour, and I thought, yes,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
getting great guns. And then I haven't carried on since. So
You read 1,200 words in an hour?
no, I wrote.
Oh, wrote, typed. That's what I thought you meant typed.
Yeah, because I write ghost stories. I'm currently on my fifth book, and it's been in writing for a year.
That's how long. Yeah.
Originally, it was supposed to have come out on Halloween, and because of various issues I had with both of my sons and other bits and bobs that I was doing, it sort of got delayed, and now it's looking at being Christmas Eve by the time it comes out for release. Yeah. So, but oddly enough, it's called Overdue.
That's hilarious. The irony.
I'm thinking, well,
story, and I thought it was going to be done around Halloween time, and it's not. No, maybe next Halloween.
Yeah, but no, it will be Christmas because I'm in the mood for writing now. That's the problem when you get writer's block. That's it.
Yes.
You struggle to get it back again. But I managed to get back into the flow of it yesterday, and I'm like, yes, I'm going great guns. I've got another chapter done, and I'm thinking, I just sit back and I think, the title's called Overdue. How funny is that?
That's funny. That's a cool title though, because it leaves you leaves a question mark. You know what I mean? Like, what's overdue?
Yeah.
So you want to do one more of the haunted stories?
We can do. I've got Monet in Cleveland. The artist Monet.
Yeah. What?
Well, Monet died in 1926, and he was known for his Impressionism art and 20th century art. He had lung cancer, and that was what he died of. So where has Monet's ghost been seen? The Cleveland Museum was closing its exhibition with painting the modern garden Monet to Matisse. The quote from the Art News states, "This man resembling Claude Monet was seen peering down into the lower lobby outside the special exhibition hall." Kelly Nataro, a communications associate with the museum, told Today.com, "This snapshot taken by a staff member is not retouched or photoshopped, and we have heard from others that they've seen the man, but there hasn't been a confirmation of his identification." So I'm going to assume that Today.com has got a picture of this so-called ghost of Monet. Cheers, Bill. Thanks for watching. So from what I can,
where you live, Wild Bill, I'm going to come find you because I have been to Mystic Falls, and I'm going back. Probably soon.
So yeah, from what I can tell, he was seen down at the lower lobby, and someone had actually taken a picture of this man. But they're all assuming that it was Monet. So somewhere on Today.com, there must be an article with a picture of what this person had seen. But it's not really what you would call. I know he's a celebrity. Monet would have been classed as a celebrity, but I wouldn't have classed it as. I wouldn't have gone out the way and said it was a celebrity haunting, to be honest.
Yeah, Covington, Georgia. I've been there. I went on the vampire tour the year before last, and I'm going back. I'm watching Legacies right now, and I'm pretty sure, I think it's filmed there. Also, parts of it. All over Georgia, there's a bunch of different places.
Oh, I'm jealous that he lives that close to the Walking Dead set.
Mm-hmm.
I
like Walking Dead, but I'm more of a Vampire Diaries fan.
Never watched it.
Never. It's all right.
I think the problem was that they started on things like obviously you get the vampire films, then you get werewolf films, and then you get the zombie films, and then they just throw them out one after the other. Just there's one, there's another one, here's another one, here's another one, and it would be, oh well, we'll stick another zombie film out, but we'll put some comedy in it. So we'll make it a complete laugh from beginning to end. And then we'll stick a vampire film out and we'll stick a bit of comedy in this. And then we'll do this and then we'll do that. Oh, hang on a minute. Well, why don't we have World War II zombies? You know, was it Outpost? So you've got Nazi zombies running around in fields and stuff. And you're just like, you really got to slow down with all these films. It's too much to control all at once. But I don't know. I think sometimes they just go a little bit over the top, and they do so many that you just can't keep track of them. And a lot of them they'd end up on DVD straight away. We won't go to the cinema with that one. We'll just put it straight to DVD.
Yeah, but Mystic Falls is it not Covington, Georgia? Because I'm pretty sure that's where I went. I'd have to go back and look at my Facebook post. Ram Lincoln Zombie Hymn. That wasn't bad. The last story I wanted to share about like a celebrity spirit or whatever is one that's I've been intrigued about for a while. I actually have thought about writing a book about this or a magazine article. One of my favorite artists hung himself, and me and him shared a birthday. So Chris Cornell used to be in the band Soundgarden. He was also an Audio Slave. He was also on Temple of the Dog, and then he had an album or two solo, just called Chris Cornell. Like one album was called Scream, and I'm not sure if he had another album out by himself. And I was actually supposed to go see him in concert like a week after his death. He was coming here to where I live, and I was going to go see him finally. It was like, something to cross off my bucket list.
Yeah.
But he played a sold out show at the Fox Theater at the MGM Grand in Detroit. And it was their last show of that tour, I believe. And in the at the end of that concert, he changed the last song on their set list. What did he change it to? Whatever he changed it to, it was like let me see. It's like Farewell to something. He changed the song and it changed the whole entire tone of the concert at the very end. And everyone said that must have been like kind of like a weird way of him. I don't know, like a cry for help or whatever, like your declaration that you're going to do something to yourself, kind of like, but without actually coming out and saying it, that they had changed the song. It was called Farewell to Something. It was a remake of a Journey song, I thought they said, in the article I read. But after he did that, then he went back to his room, and I know he had a security guard there. And I know he called his wife, and he talked to his wife on the phone. I think that maybe she was concerned about him. And he said something to her on the phone that alarmed her. So she called after he got off the phone. She knew he was going to
do something.
Yeah, she knew something bad was going to happen. So she got a hold of the security guard that was outside the door, and he couldn't get into the hotel room because it was locked. And so he had taken some prescriptions, I'm pretty sure, kind of like Michael Jackson did, but he didn't wait for them to kick in. He actually hung himself. And so, like, if he hadn't done that, it probably would have been able to get him to the hospital and save his life, because they could have pumped his stomach or, like got his stomach pumped. But because he hung himself, they couldn't. And that room is room 1136 at the MGM Grand, Detroit. And they wouldn't rent that room out for a very long time. It is said to be haunted. And I wanted to try to go there and rent that room out. And possibly, because it's been quite a few years. It's been since 2017. So it's not like new, or I wouldn't be that disrespectful. You know what I mean? It's not something new. And they've released other albums of him. And his wife has done interviews and stuff. And his daughter has even talked about it. She even did some concerts with him, a couple of them. And so they released an album of his last year or the year before that, because I have a record of it. It's the first one of the first records I bought because I got a record player last year. Epstein.
He said, yeah, we'll be talking about Epstein now. No, we're not.
Who's Epstein? Why am I thinking? I can't remember who that is. I don't know. My brain.
God, Bill.
Last year. My brain has just gotten foggy in the last year.
You've lost her now, Bill.
Oh, who's a pedo?
You were talking about renting the room out.
Yeah, renting the room out. Well, he was throwing this totally and I thought you had to go, Wild Bill. You have Tourette's syndrome. You lied. So and then he's talking about the Covington. I will message you about that though before I go there, and you can show me, because I know that someone gave me a plot pointed map of all the different places that it was filmed. But so okay, Chris Cornell supposedly haunts the room 1136 at the MGM Grand Hotel. And for a very long time, they would not rent that room out, because obviously the only reason people wanted to do that. They even were calling the night before and the day before that, before he even did that, hung himself, and trying to figure out what room he was in, because all of his fans somehow got word that he was staying in that hotel, and they wanted to know what room he was in, or maybe they saw the tour bus out back or something like that, and they were all trying to figure out where he was. And so, anyway, so he hung himself. That room is supposedly haunted. And then 2 or 3 months after that, his best friend unalived himself, which was Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park.
Mm.
And I don't know about him having a haunting or like any his spirit being like seen or anything like that. I haven't looked into that, but yeah. Anyways, that room is supposed to be haunted. If you're ever in the area where the MGM Grand in Detroit's at, you might check out a room 1136. I haven't made it there yet. I would really like to. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of places they just say we'll leave it a certain amount of time before we start letting it out again.
yeah, I think it's respectful, like out of respect for the family and the person that passed away. Vampire Diaries is filmed in a warehouse next to where I used to work in the outside part. I know that they gave me a map. Like when I was there was these girls there. There was all these people there everywhere in the Covington, Georgia, all going on the vampire tour because there's 2 places there and you can pay and they'll take you on a vampire tour. And then they have a gift shop where you can buy stuff like this. Hang on. I bought this there. It's a bag of blood. So you can buy all kinds of stuff there. But anyways, Dad gave me a map, like a digital map on, like Google Maps or whatever. And it showed you all the plot points of all the different places that you could go that they had filmed.
Mm.
They lie. I don't know who they is. Are you talking about now? Who are you talking about? Pedo? Are you talking about Epstein? Are you talking about Vampire Diaries? Are you talking about The Walking Dead? Are you talking about us?
I think Bill's trying to take us down a rabbit hole.
I think so. Many rabbit holes. I think it's kind of like they kind of like vein off. Like there's this one, this one, this one. Like
I think it's not just a rabbit hole; it's a whole rabbit warren. We're going around the whole thing.
Yeah. The people who talk about Vampire Diaries. I don't know. They were kind of obsessed fans, so I could kind of like see that they probably knew what they were talking about.
Yeah,
like they were going to go to all these places, and it was going to take them days. And I was like, I don't have time for that right now. I'll come back.
I think you have to limit it, don't you? You don't want to rush around and just quickly glimpse at places. You want to sort of take it in and enjoy the scenery, not just go, oh right, okay, yeah, well that's where they filmed this bit, right, next place, and go on somewhere else. You want to take your time and look around the place. So you'd want to spend sort of a considerable amount of time to actually enjoy what you're looking at.
And when you're in Georgia's very haunted. The whole state of Georgia is extremely haunted. So you want to kind of look at all of the different things there that are not Vampire Diaries too. You know what I mean?
She's gone on to the X-Files now.
The truth is out there. I also know that when I went there, I stumbled on them shooting Stranger Things. Do you know what that is? The show Stranger Things. They were filming that movie when I went there, and I actually went somewhere that I was not supposed to go and took videos and pictures. There was a security guard there, and he said, "Filming in progress. Don't come this way." And they were actually filming the gym scene where in Stranger Things season 4. What's the redheaded girl's name? She's in the gym reliving like having this moment of their dance or whatever, and Vecna's in there. Yeah, they were filming that while I was there, and I thought that was cool that I got to do that. Yeah, Savannah and Atlanta. We were in Atlanta also for a convention.
You should have turned around and said, do you mind if I just have a walk-on part? It'll be an extra. I'll just walk past the camera.
I'll wear a mask, or you can put makeup on my face. I'll be a monster. I'll be whoever you want me to be.
You just walk in and out of a shop. I mean, I've done that before. I've been in London where they've closed the street off to do some filming. I think it was it was one of the Mission Impossible films, and they were filming at Liverpool Street. Liverpool Street Station in London. And I was actually getting off my train. And as we got off the train, there was people standing outside. And they warned us as we were coming off the platform that there was a film crew further down. And that if we wanted to and we had the time, if we turned right off the platform, go through the gate and turn right and head down, we could be extras in the film. Anybody that didn't want to know turned left and went and left the station. So I'm like, there, I've got 2 hours, I might as well. So I went off down there and I walked into a shop and brought a newspaper. And we actually got to see Tom Cruise filming his part as I was coming out.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. It was only literally just me going into the shop to buy the newspaper. And that was it. I don't even think they used it in the actual film.
I'm wondering, they filmed a movie. Me and my daughter and my son went to be in some short parts to some movies recently in Arkansas, different areas in Arkansas. And I'm wondering, now that we're talking about it, I'm going to message them and ask them or email them and say, hey, when are you guys going to be finished with this film? Because I want to watch it. One of them was shot in Eureka Springs at the Crescent Hotel.
Mm.
And then the other one was different settings in different towns in Arkansas. This one's supposed to be a big movie. My daughter was going to be in, or she was in. I don't know when it's supposed to be out, but it's supposed to be a big one. I don't know.
Cool.
I think the only one scene from Vampire Diaries was filmed in Covington. That way they can't really say it was filmed in Covington. No, there would have been more than one scene there, because I know, like, when I was there, the places and the buildings I saw, I recognized them. And they were having a festival at the time. It was a Vampire Diaries like festival or something. So, anyways, I guess we should probably call it good shortly. But
yes.
Nick said to message him and tell him when we're done, so I'm going to message him.
Yeah. That hasn't been too bad. Unfortunately, it wasn't the scheduled live feed that we were originally planning. But we are going to, we will be resuming the anniversary live of Hurricane Mitch next week instead, providing Nick's well enough, which I think he will be. Right, they fixed the buildings to look like the set. The true sets are in 5 different warehouses.
Huh?
Bill said they fixed the buildings to look like the set, and then the true sets are in 5 different warehouses. I think that's probably so that
it's kind of like with Stranger Things. You have to go to several different places. Like, there's different towns in different states, even. Like, we went to like the Benny's Burgers place, and it's in one state, and then the Hawkins Lab is in another state, and then the Tree Farm is in another town. So,
yeah, well, I think by actually changing the appearance of buildings, you know, you're just using the structure but changing the appearance. I think what that then does is that stops too many tourists going to that location because there's no recognizable buildings. You know, if you use the natural buildings and the way they look naturally, you would have scores and scores of people. It's like when they filmed some of the live forest film sets in Star Wars, they used actual forests, and scores of people went down to them forests just to sort of take in the fact that they're standing in what was used as the Star Wars set. But then you get some of the sets where the trees were exploding, and that was all filmed within a studio. But it still didn't stop the people going from the original forest that the studio version was taken from. And they're all standing there going, we're standing in the spot from Return of the Jedi. Yeah. You're like, okay.
Nick said, tell him whenever you're finished and he'll end the live.
Okie dokie.
Well,
to be honest, I think we've done an hour and 35 minutes. That's
good.
So we've done well. We've done well considering it was a last minute thing.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Wild Bill, for not leaving when you said you were going to.
Yeah. And yeah, so thank you all for coming and joining us tonight, and thank you to all of those that have stayed with us for the full hour and 35 minutes. Like we say, this was a last minute adjustment, and I think we've done all right.
Everybody have a spooky week. See you
And
next
weekend.
week.
Yes,
We'll see you with the Hurricane Mitch disaster next week.
indeed.